Happy tax day, everyone. Happy tax day. Today was the last day to file your taxes without penalty. Happy tax day, everyone. Happy tax day. Today was the last day to file your taxes without penalty. Welcome, everyone. My name is Celso Garcia, and I'm live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X, um, Instagram, and Substack. Thank you for joining me on my daily show, wherever you are, right? Wherever you are. Let the algorithm gods, um, be on my side, right? Sometimes the algorithm is not friendly to my type of commentary, my type of point of view. And lately, the last few days, I've been diving into topics that most people don't like, right? Um, or uh, like my grandmother used to say, don't talk about these two things, right? Don't talk about religion and don't talk about politics with anyone, right? That's the two things they told me I shouldn't do is speak about religion and speak about politics. The two things that I shouldn't be doing, right? And the first thing I'm doing is speaking about these topics, right? Speaking about these topics, and they get people upset, right? It definitely gets people upset when I speak about these topics, right? So I wonder if I can live stream on Reddit. I just joined Reddit. I don't really haven't had Reddit, right? Uh, but I now have Reddit and I'm live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X, uh, Instagram, and Substack. Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? Today's tax day. A lot of people were able to get their taxes in. Some people were not able to get their taxes in. I mean, it depends on if you were able to or not. And some people said that they were going to protest, and the way they were going to protest was by um, not filing their taxes, which I can't give you advice on, right? Because you already know what happens if you don't do that, right? You face serious consequences. So I'm not gonna say and advocate for people to do that. But a lot of people said they did it goes not to uh not to get involved, to not do the taxes, but do them late, right? They decided to do their taxes late this year to try to um discourage uh the federal government from getting their money. Uh, right? To try to delay the amount of money that goes to the federal government. That was just a post I saw on Taxly, letting people know not to do it. So I'm not gonna advocate for that because when you do these type of things, it does have consequences. So I would never give people advice that I'm not ready to follow myself, right? That's not what I do, right? I try to be responsible and responsible steward of my point of views. Uh, we always got to find a way to protest and to fight against those forces in our society. Okay. So my internet went down. I don't know about yours. Sorry about that. Um, My internet definitely went down. Um, I don't know if yours went down, but mine went down just for a couple of seconds. Thanks for joining me on, like I was saying, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X, Instagram, and Substack, right? Let me make sure that everything's running the way it should be running. Yeah, it's running. Okay, so today was tax day, right? Today's tax day, very important day, right? Tax day is a very important day in the United States. And so um, a lot of people did a good job their taxes. And so we're going to talk about a lot of deep topics. So Zora Mandani has some experts speaking, economists speaking about how um, when you tax the rich, they don't really flee the neighborhood that they do business in, the neighborhood where they socialize in. Usually, most of the time, they very meticulous about they where they live. Like for example, even though Donald Trump left New York, he became a resident of Florida. He still is a New Yorker. He still has businesses here. He still has buildings here. He still, it's kind of hard for him to decouple himself from New York City, right? He still has business licenses here. He still pays some taxes here. Not all the taxes, but I'm sure his accountants find a way for him not to pay taxes. But this is an area that we should all pay attention to and understand that it's not always what the media tells you and tells you the way it works, right? It's not the way the media tells you it works. Never the way the media tells you it works. It doesn't work that way, people. People don't just get up and leave. The people that get up and leave are the poor people, the people that don't have as much money as those people that are rich, right? And the tax that Zoran is proposing is not a lot of money. A rich person's not going to leave New York for $50,000, right? When they have millions and millions of dollars, and those millions and millions of dollars could buy a lot of stuff in New York, and they have accessibility to more business people, and so don't believe the hype, right? Don't believe the hype that business people flee the areas that they like. It's not how it works. It has never worked that way. It's like uh, the movie stars will always be moved to California, right? Because that's where the most of the movies were filmed. Now the movies are filmed in other areas, but a lot of them purchase homes because they know that's where the majority of the business is. They have several homes and they buy homes in different areas. It's like Elon Musk has 15 apartments or different houses. Bill Gates, most rich people have homes in different parts of the world. They don't just reside in one place. The whole point is that I believe in the rich paying their fair share because they also enjoy the services that they receive. They drive on the same roads we do. They um, they often take the subway, public transportation, or so we should hold them accountable and say, hey, your workers also use the road. Your workers also use the public transit. Your workers use the healthcare system that needs the funding to allow you to exist, right? And also to have stability. Stability is a good thing for the rich. Having a place that's stable, that allows them to thrive, is also very important to be able to keep their money and keep gaining on their money, right? Keep benefiting from their money. That's the only way they could benefit is if they benefit greatly, even though they try to tell you that they don't benefit at all from their money, they do benefit from their money. As much as they try to convince you that they don't benefit. But let's listen to what Zoran has to say today about taxing the rich.
And so, for all of the discussion,
Let's hear what Zoran had to say about taxing the rich. What did he have to say about potentially taxing the rich?
And so, for all of the discussion of the imagined exodus that would take place were we to tax the wealthiest New Yorkers by the appropriate.
Let's try it again. Let's try it again, people. Let's try it again. Let me see. Let me try something else.
Of the imagined
Hello. Yeah. Yeah.
exodus that would take place were we to tax the. And so, for all of the discussion of
Let me try to get a different name. I hope you can hear me. Having audio issue for some reason. Let me see if let me reset it. Let me reset it. Let me reset it. I don't know why you can hear me, but I don't know why you can't hear me. Let me just reset it for you all. Um, I'll play the video and you can't hear anything. Um, maybe let's see. All right, give me 1 second. Let me reset it to you. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let me just do something real big fast. Can't hear nothing, right? Hello, everyone. I hope I'm back. I don't know what was that about, right? Some people don't like the topics I cover. I already told you. Things start to go down. I'm still gonna cover the topics I cover, even if they don't want me to, right? So I'm still gonna cover the topics. Have a good night, everyone. Have a good night. All right, have a good night.
Effort to increase taxes on millionaires at that time. We were told the same thing then. And what we find now is that we have more millionaires today than we did at that time, even after having passed them. And so, for all of the discussion of the imagined exodus that would take place were we to tax the wealthiest New Yorkers by the appropriate amount, I say imagined because before I was a mayor, I was a state legislator and I was part of an effort to increase taxes on millionaires at that time. We were told the same thing then. And what we find now is that we have more millionaires today than we did at that time, even after having passed that tax. And so, for all of that conversation about this imagined exodus, we have to reckon with the very real exodus that we are seeing in the city, an exodus of working class people, an exodus of those who cannot afford to live here, and for many who work here, who now find their residence in Jersey City or in Connecticut or in Pennsylvania, anywhere else where their dollar can go a little bit further. And we've seen just in a snapshot from 2000 to 2020, the city lost 200,000 of its black residents. That is the cost of inaction. And so that also speaks to the urgency of this conversation and this advocacy. And it is a representation of the fact that while this is a global issue, it is also very much a local issue here in New York City.
And a matter of fact, we
Cancer affects
lost
every part of your
a
life.
lot of people, right? We lost a lot of people. Um, a lot of people fled the city. Um, countless people. I always tell the story. I'm still in New York, right? I'm still in New York, but all my friends that I grew up with have fled the city. They don't live here anymore. They find the city to be too expensive, overpriced. The services you get are not the same. In other places, you get a lot better services and you get more bang for your buck. So a lot of my friends, a lot of my colleagues ended up leaving New York City. They couldn't afford it anymore. Um, it's uh, it's just a reality that New York City is for the wealthy. New York City is for the people that have and not for the have-nots, right? That's how it has gotten. New York City has gotten that out of control, that crazy, that bad, that the expenses are astronomical. Too much for most people to handle, too much for the majority of people that I know, especially raising a family, especially raising a family in New York City. It is just sometimes astronomical. And what Joe Rogan said, I'm not the biggest fan, but he made a point that a lot of people, the biggest problem in America is that people are not having children, right? The biggest problem we have in America is that people are not having kids anymore. People are choosing purposefully to not have children, right? Because of the cost of living, right? That's worrying because we have an aging population. I've always said it, we have an aging population that needs to be taken care of by the younger population. But if there's no younger population to take care of the older population, then we have a huge problem in our hands, right? We have a huge problem, which is a problem that China had. It's a problem that Japan had um, because of their one child policy, right? You can only have one child per family. So now they realize that it was a mistake. They reversed themselves because they realized that who's going to take care of the elderly if people are not having children, right? Who's going to replace the workers that do the majority of work if there's not another generation coming behind this generation, right? So who's going to replace this generation, that generation? And so we have a serious problem in our hands that we don't want to acknowledge that we need more children, we need more families having children, we need more younger people to be able to take over those jobs that people are leaving, right?
About that, but our reproduction numbers,
Mhm.
we're not reproduce. Yeah, you would think that in a society that is, I mean, America is also facing a potential population
Mhm.
collapse. People don't think about that, but our reproduction numbers,
Mhm.
we're not reproduce. Yeah, they're down quite a bit, and they're not at the level that we need in order to keep our population.
It's the normal shape of the population is like this, right? So this is up here, not very many people, and down here, lots and lots of people.
And this is terms of
And
age,
it's
older
like
or younger at the
going like
bottom.
this.
Right.
Now, lots of people are living longer, but few are down here. And then what that means is the ones down here are supposed to support the ones up here.
And that's not happening, right? The ones up here can't support the ones down there, right? So amid issues like massive migration and changing social norms, local birth rates have been hot topics in many developed countries, including in the United States. How many children should each person be allowed to have? Some conservatives, figures like Elon Musk, have warned that without solving this crisis, entire cultures will just demographically disappear. So, I mean, and unfortunately, there's a lot of white people that
Welcome back. Well, the race for New York governor.
I look forward to you joining us at our next investment.
there's a lot of it's based on demographics. So based on demographics, the group of people that are having the most children are Hispanic households. Hispanic households, minorities. When you look at the numbers, we're the ones that are having the most children out of all the other groups, right? We're the ones having the most children. And so, especially in in a household like a Christian or Catholic household, we're taught that having more children is beneficial because we have to be fruitful and we have to multiply, right? Be fruitful and multiply. That's what we taught, right? At a young age, we're taught to be fruitful, multiply. It's great, right? It's great to be fruitful and multiply, but some people do not want to have children, and this is the big difference in culture, right? A big difference in culture, right? In in white culture, like they say, they don't really start having children until later on, right? They're not gonna have children until later on in life. Uh, so just a lot of controversy, right? And late night hosts, Jimmy Kimmel is on blast, right? They blasting Jimmy Kimmel. They're criticizing him because they're saying that he's too focused on politics and he's too focused on blasting politicians. So this is what I'm talking about, the whole talk about politics or talking about too much politics. What is the right balance, right? What is the right balance, right? What's the right balance? What's the right way to balance the politics in your life, right? And so I'm talking about the two things that people don't like to talk about, which is politics and religion, because they intersect, even though people say, oh, not one doesn't have to do with the other, but they have a lot to do with each other, right? Just like comedy, the comedy is something that intersects with everything else, right? Right? Comedy intersects with politics. Laughing about things that are happening is something that we should be used to, right? Right? We should be used to it. That's all. Sorry, wrong clip. I lost the clip. Okay. almost lost the clip, right? So let's watch Jimmy Kimmel speak, right? Let's watch him speak. What Jimmy Kimmel has to say. And to me, Jimmy Kimmel's hilarious, right? He's hilarious, but he also speaks the truth. Usually, the comedians are the ones that speak the truth, that say things the way they are, say the things rawly. I always remember George Carlin. He used to say stuff. Richard Pryor. They spoke the truth. They said it the way it was, raw, right? They were really raw. There were no politicians, but they spoke about the truth and what they felt was their truth, and made people laugh at the same time because they know that they're true. It's true what they're saying, right? Well, let's listen to
To
Jimmy Kimmel
say
being
that
interviewed by by Michelle Obama.
your job is this, it makes me, I bristle at that because, first of all, don't tell me what my job is.
Exactly.
You know, I don't tell you what your job is. My job is whatever I decide my job is, or whatever my employer allows me to do. That's what my job is. And comedians have been doing this for a long time.
So true.
And, you know, from my generation, George Carlin, Richard Pryor, it just shows a great deal of ignorance when it comes to comedy to say, well, Johnny Carson didn't do this. Like, well, first of all, we're living in a different time.
Yeah, we're living in a different time, right? So Jimmy Kimmel maintained that it would be shameful of him not to discuss politics on his show, and said he couldn't imagine about anything else. He couldn't imagine talking about anything else. So, I mean, his audience is big, right? His audience supports him, and that's what they like. And even though they might disagree with him, they like him and talking about politics, like him just saying things the way he feels like they should be said, unfiltered, right? The unfiltered people are the best people, right? They have no filter. They don't worry about being politically correct. It's not like us that we worried about offending people, or we worry about who watches us, who doesn't watch us. We he has no filter, right? He has no filter. He doesn't care. Um, he says it the way it is, right? He says it the way it is, and that's what matters, right? We should always have that, right? We should always have that. We should always be able to say it the way it is. I respect him for that. And I respect any comedian that refuses to cave to the corporate interests and refuses to cave to those interests in society that don't want them speaking up about unpopular things, about topics that are uncomfortable, about right, about topics that are uncomfortable. There's always going to be uncomfortable topics in life, in the world. There's always going to be uncomfortable topics. But I'm glad that there's going to be politicians or comedians like Jimmy Kimmel that speaks the truth. Uh, these politicians have gotten really upset at Jimmy Kimmel. Donald Trump has said that he should be canceled, that he shouldn't be allowed on TV uh, because they feel threatened, right? They feel threatened by anyone that might be more popular than they are, or it might join more people than they can. It makes them look bad, and it's also about an ego, right? It's an ego thing. With Trump, is definitely an ego thing. Not just Trump or every politician. It's an ego thing. They want to be more popular than the next politician. They want to be remembered as the best politician that everyone liked, right? It's about clicks. It's about being the coolest person. It's 10 o'clock at night in New York, and I'm drinking coffee. Can't believe it. A little bit, you know? Not the best thing to do, right? But doing it. And water. I also have my water, don't worry. I have some water with me. So Jimmy Kimmel maintained that it would be shameful of him not to discuss politics on his show and said he couldn't imagine talking about anything else, right? He was interviewed by Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama now has a podcast. The podcast field is crowded. Everyone and their mother has a podcast, is out there talking about politics. And unfortunately, in this world, the celebrity name is what makes you stand out, right? Make you stand out. So it's even harder for the average person to be found, right? That was my complaint, that YouTube was intended to draw in the regular person, right? And now it's become professional. It's become a way that um, that you are controlled by certain groups of people, right? And so YouTube now, they have videographers, they have scripts. It has turned what TV used to be, right? Except many more channels. It's harder to get recognized because you can flip through your phone all day, your tablet all day, and never stop getting content fed to you, right? It's never stop getting content fed to you. So it's kind of hard to concentrate and focus on certain types of content or certain types of people are speaking or making comments, right? It's hard to focus on certain people, right? Um, do me a favor, everyone. Hit the share, hit the like, uh, before we get into the meat and potatoes and get you upset. Hit the like button. And so they say that Donald Trump had a really bad interview. A lot of people are saying Donald Trump had a bad interview on Fox News. So Trump had a bad interview on Fox, and they gave him softball questions. They try to make it easy for him, and he still was not able to hold it down. as far as the interview is concerned, right?
No, I'm not playing. I have to find out.
And he said he's not leaving if,
Well, then I'll have to fire him. Okay. If he's not leaving on time, I've held back firing him. I've wanted to fire him, but I hate to be controversial. I want to be uncontroversial. But
and you think Kevin Warsh can get confirmed? You think Tom Tillis is going to give you a
well, we're
vote
going to have to find out. He might not, but that's why Tom Tillis is no longer a senator.
Okay. On the AI
Tom
thing,
Tillis is no longer a senator, right?
well, he's on his way out.
Well, no, he quit, but he quit. And I think he doesn't want the legacy of stopping a person who could be great. I think Kevin Warsh is going to be great. He doesn't want the legacy of having an incompetent guy stay there for longer than is necessary. I know.
Oh, some people are saying that he just conflated two different people. And so, I mean,
As
what
a
do you
director,
think? Is that true? Did he conflate the facts? All right. That's so. Let's listen to a few other people. Thank you for joining me, everyone. I really do appreciate you joining me. Taking your time out of the day to listen to me, out of all people. Um, and so let's get right into it with some political commentary. And so apparently, the Pope was saying that he really doesn't want to fight Trump. He just wants peace and he doesn't want war.
If you are all rested and ready for this next leg of our trip, happy to greet you all this morning after what I personally consider has been a very blessed trip and visit to Algeria. And I want to begin by expressing a word of gratitude to all the authorities in Algeria who made this visit possible. So it was a special blessing for me personally to return once again to Annaba yesterday, but also to offer to the church and the world a vision that St. Augustine offers us in terms of that search for God and the struggle to build community, to seek for unity among all peoples and respect for all peoples in spite of the differences. So in 2 days in Algeria, I think we've really had a wonderful opportunity to, if you will, continue to build bridges, to promote dialogue. I think the visit to the mosque was significant, to say that although we have different beliefs, we have different ways of worshiping, we have different ways of living, we can live together in peace. And so I think that to promote that kind of image is something which the world needs to hear today, and that together we can continue to offer in our witness as we continue on this apostolic voyage. Have a wonderful trip. Good to see you all. Thank you for your service once again. Thank you.
So he's saying, all he wants is peace. He's not trying to be political. He just doesn't want war. And I just saw right now, late breaking news right now, as I'm live, that apparently a deal has been reached. Uh, Let me see if this is true. Um, because Pakistani mediators arrive in Iran to keep peace talks alive. And supposedly there's been an agreement. Uh, there's been an agreement. So I'm getting messages that there's been an agreement in Afghanistan. Uh, just days after the collapse of marathon talks in Pakistan, the US and Iran have reportedly reached an in principle agreement to extend the ceasefire. According to the Associated Press, which cites unnamed regional officials, the two sides have struck a deal in principle despite the naval blockade announced by President Donald Trump on Sunday and renewed threats from Iran. As of now, the two-week ceasefire is set to expire on April 22nd. The U.S. blockade on Iranian ports and renewed Iranian threats have imperiled the week-old agreement, but regional officials said Wednesday they were making progress, telling the Associated Press that the United States and Iran had given an in-principle agreement to extend it to allow for more diplomacy. According to AP reporters Magdi, Sam Metz, and Munir Ahmed, in an interview on Fox Business with Maria Bartiromo, which was taped Tuesday, the president expressed optimism that the conflict is on the verge of ending. I think it's close over yet. Trump said, I view it as a very close to over. In a separate interview with the New York Post, Trump advised reporter Caitlin Dorsey, who is in Islamabad, Pakistan, after having covered the U.S.-Iran peace negotiations over the weekend, that she should remain there to cover subsequent talks. You should stay there, really, because something could be happening over the next 2 days, and we're more inclined to go there, Trump said of Islamabad. So, so it's possible that talks may resume. Um, so, so it says Bishop defend bishops defend Pope after criticism from Vance. Um, Pope Leo, the chairman of U.S. Catholic Bishops Doctrine Committee, defended Pope Leo the 14th authority on theological matters a day after Vice President J.D. Vance suggested that the Pope be more careful in his remarks about war. The chairman, Bishop James Massa, said the Pope carefully refers to the Church's tradition and that he is not offering opinions on theology, but rather preaching the gospel. The pontiff, who had criticized the war in Iran, did not respond directly to Mr. Vance's remarks to reporters, right? And at the same tune, um, the three most politically powerful men in America, President Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Speaker Mike Johnson, have intensified their criticism of Pope Leo XIV, who has repeatedly spoken about Roman Catholic Church teaching against war and for peace in recent days, right? It's like they told him, stay in your lane. We run the country, you run your church. Their flight is not simply political, it's fundamentally religious, or the Republican leaders are now arguing with the Pope over theology to support the U.S. and Israeli military campaign in Iran. On Wednesday on Capitol Hill, Mr. Johnson, who is not Catholic but evangelical, said that he was taken a little bit aback when Pope Leo said last week that Jesus does not listen to the prayers of those who wage war and that their hands are full of blood. There's something called the just war doctrine, Mr. Johnson said, after Mr. Vance, who has been a Catholic for about 7 years, admonished Pope Leo to be more careful if he was going to opinion on matters of theology. The chairman of the U.S. Catholic Bishops Doctrine Committee shot back with a rare clarification statement about what Catholic just war theory really means. For over 1,000 years, the Catholic Church has taught just war theory, and it's that long tradition that Holy Father carefully uh, references in his comments on war. Bishop James Massa wrote, "To be a just war," he said, "it must be a defense against another who actively wages war," which is what the Holy Father actually said. He does not listen to the prayers of those who wage war. Bishop Massa had added, when Pope Leo XIV speaks as Supreme Pastor of the Universal Church, he is not merely offering opinions on theology, he is preaching the gospel. What is the just war theory? At its basis, it is as a means for people to distinguish permissible killing from illegitimate killing or murder, said Joseph Capisi, Dean of the School of Theology and Religious Studies at the Catholic University of America. There are criteria for how to act morally when getting into a war. And then once you are in it, there is also an ethic about the good end of politics. The things that politics ought to pursue, like stability and peace, which is why we see Pope Leo emphasizing that Christians should be peacemakers. He said, this war tradition predates Christianity. So empires like the Romans had their own theories, like Cicero. He said, the Catholic Church has a specific theology tradition about just war. One of the Ten Commandments is, you shall not kill. What is the Catholic tradition of just war? The theology dates largely to St. Augustine, the political theologian from northern Africa who wrote in the early 5th century as northern tribes, sometimes called barbarians, were invading the Roman Empire. There was a kind of presumed uh, pacifism in the first few centuries of the church's life. But now the church has responsibilities to society, responsibilities to protect the borders of the nation. Bishop Maza, the doctrine committee chairman, explained in an interview on Wednesday. St. Thomas Aquinas further developed it in the 13th century, resulting generally in two sets of criteria, one for going to war, and then one for continuing to participate in war, he said. We reluctantly will take up arms as Christian believers if we are facing an aggressor and it has to be an immediate threat. Bishop Miles said, once we're involved in the conflict, it's not as if it's okay, then all bets are off. We can do whatever we want. All right. So they say it has to be a justified war. It has to be a just war for any Christians to be able to support this war. Right. That's the most important thing. The justice of the war. If it's justified, if it's carrying out the means of peace and bringing the world together closer, then it could be justified. But that's not the case. It seemed to be a sloppy way of doing things on the behalf of the White House. They kept changing their opinion and then saying it was a joke, and then they just reread it, and it's just a straight up mess, right? It's just a straight up mess. Okay, so let's see. They started piling on the Pope, right? So they're piling on the Pope. Don't want to give him a chance. So Jack Chiarella says that there was a leak in the White House, and that's why Melania Trump decided. Cash Patel is in danger now because he's leaking, or his department is leaking stuff about Melania Trump. And so Trump is trying to do damage control. But they say Cash Patel is behind the leaks, possibly.
Terrible at his job, and he might be losing it because of what he just let slip. Now, Melania Trump, in the announcement that she made last week, was bad enough for Donald Trump's attempts to cover up the Epstein files. But what is worse is the investigation into the entirety of Melania's past that it is spurred on. We have seen Epstein story after Epstein story since Melania told us that she did not meet her husband through Epstein. And it turns out, unsurprisingly, that was a massive lie. And we know that thanks to Kash Patel's incompetence. Now, we are going to get into the FBI leak that may cost Kash his job and exposes that Melania is a liar who needs to be brought before Congress, where she should go under oath about Epstein. But before we get into that, I want to start with the person who is defending Melania and trying to protect her as she's thrown her husband under the bus. That is Todd Blanche and what he just said on Fox that really exposes the entirety of the screw-ups of this scandal.
Well, last week, the First Lady dropped a bomb at the White House. Here's Melania Trump at the White House talking about the Epstein files.
The lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today. I call on Congress to provide the women who have been victimized by Epstein with a public hearing specifically centered around the survivors.
Questions that come off of this. Did you know she was going to make that statement? Did you have information prior? Will you act on her request before Congress? And when you remember what the president said, when you give all the files out there, the innocent people are going to be hurt. And we've seen that to some degree. How would you answer those three questions?
So, no, the First Lady does not check with me before she speaks to the American people, and I wouldn't expect her to. But what she said rings true to me. And what I mean by that is there have been tons of false narratives around her and her relationship or lack thereof with Epstein. And so I get her frustration and complaints, and I readily agree with it. As far as her call to Congress, it's exactly the same thing that we have been saying for the past year, which is the following. If there is a victim that has evidence against anybody, they should absolutely report it to the FBI, and we will take it seriously no matter what. And so her call to Congress to have witnesses come forward and testify is not inconsistent with what the Department of Justice and President Trump, frankly, has been saying for many years.
Is anyone else incredibly disturbed that Todd Blanche seems to have more sympathy for Melania, who has been subject to, ooh, get this, so scary, a bunch of AI, that's it, just AI photos of her and Epstein. That's it. That's the pain that poor Melania has felt. Oh my God. Oh no. What a crime. Wait, actually, it's not. What is a crime is what Epstein did to the survivors who are speaking out, who clearly we see Todd Blanche just try to just nudge to the side. Oh, yeah, we care about them. And, maybe they should talk. There are lots of people who have been interviewed by the FBI who have not gotten their day before Congress. And by the way, Todd, if you don't remember,
when my hair started thinning, I wanted to attack
Yeah,
the
it's,
problem head on.
it's just a reality, right? It's a reality. That so it's a contradiction between Todd Blanche, Melania Trump, Donald Trump, JD Vance. They're all saying different things when it comes to Epstein, and that's problematic, right? So it's like hard to get the truth. Are we gonna get the truth? Good, good question. Are we gonna get the truth?
interview with NBC News that he's not concerned when Trump encourages or directs or expects the Department of Justice to do its job. What Todd Blanche really meant to say is that he thinks it's totally fine that Donald Trump is interfering with the DOJ and that Donald Trump is interfering with the FBI. Kash Patel has fired people on the basis of them being involved in the periphery. Of investigations into Donald Trump and his crimes, right? You could be loosely associated with one of those investigations, and Kash Patel would fire you. And he did. Kash Patel fired counterintelligence agents.
Anyone that investigates Trump or is willing to investigate Trump, uh, that's what Trump has fired. FBI agents, uh, analysts, anyone that was connected to looking into Donald Trump the first time around, uh, they got rid of them. They found a way to get rid of them. That's just a reality.
Who were working to protect us from intelligence.
Hey, Jalen, what's harder, picking plays or picking outfits?
Next question.
If you got to be twice as good, can you throw twice as far?
So Melania's in Trump, and Trump are both in trouble. So who's left? JD Vance. He's the voice of reason in the White House. I mean, think about it. And the interesting part is that Trump is still attacking the Pope, and the Pope is still sticking to his guns. And Epstein is, and this is what Tom Homan said. That's why I don't like mixing government with religion or politics, but they all doing it. And when the Pope does it, or is just speaking his truth, they don't like that, right? They don't like him speaking the truth or saying things the way he should say things. Let's listen to. And so they're attacking back. The whole Trump administration is attacking the Catholic Church and the Pope, right? And so let's listen to Coleman, what
I'm a
he had to
lifelong
say.
Catholic, baptized, First Communion, Confirmation. I love the Catholic Church. I just wish they stick to fixing the church because there's issues. I know because I'm a member. And stay out of politics. I mean, I watched the Cardinals get interviewed in 60 Minutes. They don't understand. They think the Trump policy is inhumane and ICE is a rogue agency. President Trump has illegal immigration down 97%. When 97% less people come in, how many women aren't being raped making that journey by the cartels? How many women and children aren't being sex trafficked? How many people aren't dying making that journey? Over 4,000 died during the Biden administration, historic record. 250,000 Americans dead from fentanyl, historic record. Secure border saves lives. A secure border is the most humane thing we can do. With an open border, the most vulnerable people in the world are going to give their life savings to the cartels, make that dangerous journey. I wish they sit down with me and hear my experiences the last 40 years. Maybe they understand why a secure border saves lives. A secure border is the most humane thing this country can do.
But how many people are being violated in detention and so many things, right? How many people are not also not being supported or are being abused within the for-profit ICE detention facilities, right? There's been reports of physical abuse, emotional abuse of women, children, families, and so he's saying that that doesn't exist, that doesn't happen. But the reports are there, right? Amnesty International, several non-for-profits and human rights organizations have pointed out on the deplorable conditions in these facilities. But he's saying that they pretty much stop any people from coming in, and it should be more embarrassing as a Catholic, and more embarrassing that he's taking this stance, right? That he's taking this stance, that he's supporting Donald Trump over um, over Jesus, over anything he has to say, right? And the thing is that Trump doesn't stop. He feels like everyone has to stop, do things his way, and he doesn't have to back down, and everyone else should back down. And so today he sent a tweet, and this is what he said. This is the tweet he put out. He put out a picture of a younger Trump, right? Let's see if I can find a better one. So this is the words that Donald Trump said. This was in 2015 when Donald Trump was interviewed by news outlets and he explained his point of view. I don't think his point of views have changed that much, right? No. And he still has not
I
been
wouldn't
able
want to
to
get
name
into
the
it
Bible
because to me that's
verses.
very personal. You know, when I talk about the Bible, it's very personal. So I don't want to get into verses. I don't want to get into.
There's no verse that means a lot to you that you think about or cite.
The Bible means a lot to me, but I don't want to get into specifics.
Uh, these are the people that want to
You
lecture the
get to cite
Pope
a verse that you like.
I don't want to do
about
that. Old Testament,
the
go ahead. New
Bible.
Testament. Probably.
These are the people that want to lecture uh, about the Bible and what they hold within it, right? The hypocrisy, right? The hypocrisy of it all. Hypocritical, right? So this is the controversy. So this is the latest controversy. Again, he just doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. And this is what he does again. After getting a lot of backlash, he thought it would be a good idea to post a picture of him with Jesus. They're saying he's shining the light on Jesus, or is it the other way around? We can't tell, right?
Fashioning himself as America's Lord and Savior. And the image President Trump has his eyes closed, doesn't appear to be sleeping, while he is cradled by Jesus. The presidential prose that accompanied the image. The radical left lunatics might not like this, but I think it is quite nice. For sheer bizarreness, however, and a dose of messianic madness, hard to beat AI Jesus Trump, the golden, godlike celestial light pouring forth from his manly hands, healing the sick, answering prayers. It is glorious. Hours later, he took it down, not because the radical left lunatics, but because some allies in Congress and people who do actually have faith were outraged. The president said he thought it was an image of him as a doctor, which then makes you wonder who were those alleged doctors who had allegedly administered him those alleged cognitive tests, which he allegedly aced. This latest post of Trump with Jesus, not Trump as Jesus, comes after his vice president was giving advice to Pope Leo, the leader of 1.4 billion Catholics, including Mr. Vance, on religious doctrine. It was at a Turning Point USA event in Georgia.
I think it's very, very important for the Pope to be careful when he talks about matters of theology. I think one of the issues here is that if you're going to opine on matters of theology, you've got to be careful. You've got to.
And the thing is, the funny part is that the whole crowd was really thin. He didn't really draw a lot of people. He's not popular, right? Among the base.
Make sure it's anchored in the truth. And that's one of the things that I try to do. And it's certainly something I would expect from the clergy.
On the day the president was promoting the image of him and Jesus huddling, the Pope, on a trip to Algeria, referencing a visit to the Great Mosque of Algiers, promoted the gospel of unity.
Although we have different beliefs, we have different ways of worshiping, we have different ways of living, we can live together in peace. And so I think that to promote that kind of image is something which the world needs to hear today.
Now,
Wow. Even if governments don't want this, or we can live in peace together. We don't gotta be fighting each other. Um, so I hope that Trump does apologize, and that's it. We apologize to each other, take on it, and be strong. That's what we can do. But you can support the channel, everyone. Sign up on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X, Instagram, and Substack. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you. Anything helps. Anything helps. So it's $ old man neighbor. Let's see. One second. That's the Cash App if you want to support the channel. $ old man neighbor. $ old man neighbor. Like you're fighting for what's right, fighting for the people. Even if I get face consequences. Because people don't like people to fight. Right? Thank you for joining me. I appreciate every single one of you. And hit the like button, hit the share button on all the platforms above. Have a good night. Take care. Let's talk tomorrow. Uh, Tomorrow's another day, right? And don't stress yourself. And let's see the results on the Yahoo. I'm not in. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. But have a good night, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.